What's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video. We're here with the Bobby Brown documentary that was shown on A&E last night. I know that it's pretty much a two-part event, two-part, little mini series, but I feel like the first night was pretty much enough for me to kind of speak on it and give my thoughts and react to what I saw. So without further ado, let's get into it. First things first. Anytime the members of New Edition get their flowers, to me, I'm all here for it. I feel like each member of New Edition is deserving of all the flowers, all the recognition, all the respect that they can get at this point in their careers. These guys are pioneers of the music industry for R&B groups, solo artists as we know it, obviously, because we had Usher, talking about pretty much what the group meant to him, particularly Bobby. And not to kind of take the attention away from him, because I do want to kind of talk a little bit about that too, but I am going to address the elephant in the room. If you kind of notice what was missing, you'll know what I'm talking about in a few. But basically going into this, I pretty much had an idea as to what was going to be talked about pretty much. There were a couple of things that I didn't know. Obviously, the church incident that Bobby went through when he was a young kid, I don't think he wrote about that in his book Every Little Step. I've only read it one time a few years ago. I haven't really went back in that book to kind of read it again, because I think for the most part I've pretty much internalized it. But it was nice to see different people talk about his career, different aspects of it. The different members talking about their experiences on tour, ultimately what led him to, leaving the group, and, things like that, which, I pretty much expected. So there was nothing really about the documentary that was surprising or brand new to me, because I feel like, if you're a Annie for lifer, a New Edition fan, pretty much everything is going to kind of be, I don't want to say redundant, but we know the story already, but we're just kind of seeing it done, in a contemporary way. And obviously the quality was there. So it was pretty much the Bobby Brown version of the Janet Jackson documentary, which is pretty great. I think it was on the same network. But anyway, for me personally, I'm somebody who, if you are familiar with my channel, or if you have seen, some of my videos on Facebook, basically I've studied all the members of New Edition pretty much ever since I saw their Behind the Music documentary that was on VH1 years ago. And in fact, I actually thought that they had a movie already. So in Behind the Music, I thought that the Mr. Telephone Man music video was like a scene from the New Edition movie. I didn't realize that those were the members, they themselves. And basically, I gravitated to Ralph and Bobby. So Ralph Tresvant was my or is my number one, favorite member of the group. And then Bobby, is pretty much, number two. And I think the reason for Bobby is because he has the biggest personality out of all six of them. And I know what it's like to kind of sort of be the odd one out, because you're so different, or, the space that you're given to shine in isn't enough. And it's kind of like, it's to the point where you need your own space, because you can't really do it where everybody else is at. And as much as I'd like to, as much as I'd like to see or to know what it would have been like if Bobby would have never left the group, because think about it. It's like, imagine, the Heartbreak album being, imagine Bobby being on the Heartbreak album. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's really cool. But ultimately, Bobby's whole career and story is just a testament to, like divine timing and divine intervention. And basically, everything in life happens for a reason. And you're going to be, where you're meant to be. And whatever you're supposed to have, you're going to have. Even if you don't get it when you want, you're going to get it when you need, when you, ultimately need it. You know what I'm saying? Or when it's time, it's time. But anyway, yeah, all that stuff was cool. Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston, him talking about the little, insecurities that he had about his solo career, initially. And then obviously, what it went on to be. And honestly, I feel like me personally being born, years after the fact, it's like I still have no idea as to how big he really was. It's one of those things where I envy people who were like teenagers and young adults and kids back in the 80s, because I think that was just a time period in music and in life where you just had to be there. It's like, yeah, we might can, go back and look at things and revisit them, watch old videos and concerts and stuff like that. But if you weren't there, you weren't there. And I envy people who just kind of got to live through that whole time period of music and life in general. But anyway, the main thing that I really wanted to talk about, honestly, is the fact that this was kind of like the Bobby Brown documentary, not featuring New Edition, but featuring RBRM. You know what I'm saying? And, it was nice to see Johnny there. And don't get me wrong, this was probably a situation where maybe Ralph just wasn't available, but I hate that he wasn't there. Now, granted, anybody who really knows that at a certain point in time in the group back in, 84 and 85, Ralph and Bobby were the closest ones in the group. And honestly, they were the two that kind of maintained their friendship from that point all the way up until, they did Heads of State, obviously, because Heads of State was just, Ralph, Johnny, and Bobby. So I'm not sure what happened, but I think like that's something that doesn't get mentioned enough. I think, Ralph obviously mentioned that, a few times, but it's like we didn't get to see that in the New Edition story, which is one of like the, my little critiques of that, because basically when Bobby left the group, or he was quote unquote voted out, it's kind of one story or the other, which is basically that, the concert happened and Bobby, management says that Bobby has to, get out the group and everything like that. He's going to mess everything up. And Ralph, being that BBD was already starting to form at that particular time, and those guys kind of were, let's just call a spade. They were a bit jealous of the fact that, Ralph and Bobby were the main ones getting all the shine, because it really the only ones who had any real lead vocals in the group at that time was Ralph and Bobby. So that was kind of something that they related to, because, I'm quoting Ralph where he said that, they would get off stage and, Ricky, Ronnie, and Mike would get off stage, and mind you, it'd be a really good show, but then they would just be like, oh, this show sucked. This show was trash. And, Ralph and Bobby are like, look, we ain't going to worry about that, man. We're the two guys holding, the lead vocals. We're holding down, we're the two front men of the group. So we're not going to be worried about that. And that's how they clicked up. So when Bobby was going to leave the group, Ralph was willing to leave the group also, because he was like, yo, if Bobby's not going to be here, then I don't think I want to be here, either. You know what I'm saying? And Ralph was really going to put his voice down on the table so that Bobby could stay. So he's like, yo, like, it's just strange that wasn't, included in the New Edition story, being that they both, went on record as to say that was something that actually happened. I think maybe they left it out for dramatization purposes and to kind of make Bobby seem even more so of the rebel and the outcast in the group. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that I just feel like, Ralph should have been a part of, this whole thing and celebrating, Bobby. I don't like that. Now it seems that, Ralph is the one who you don't really see as much. And if you've seen Ralph's A Closer Look documentary, he says it. He's like, yo, he loved to be a New Edition member more than being a solo artist. So with that said, it's just like, why is it that he's not there? Now, again, he could have just been, oh my gosh, I'm so hot. He could have just been not available at the time to do it. But I would have loved to see Ralph there. Obviously, they did speak on Ralph, and some of his footage was used, but he could have chimed in on Zoom. They could have done something. But being that Johnny was there and Johnny and Ralph are really close, I don't think that it's anything that serious. But, me personally, I just feel like, New Edition is a package deal. So it's like when you don't have one of the members, even if it was Mike, even if it was Ricky, even if it was Ronnie, there's something missing. It's like you always would love to see all six than just the five of them, or one of them is missing, because I wasn't really about that whole RBRM thing. You know, me personally, Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike is a Ralph Tresvant quote. So if anybody should be in the group while they're doing that, it should be him. So, you know, that's all I'm saying. But anyway, shout out to Bobby, shout out to, you know, New Edition, shout out to all the New Edition fans out there. But that's just something that, you know, I wanted to talk about. And I just felt like that was missing from the documentary. And there was a small part of me that wasn't really enjoying it because my favorite member wasn't there. But with that said, if you have any thoughts, let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.